Hello and welcome to another thrilling episode of Tech Startup Unfiltered, the weekly show that brings you the raw, ungarnished truth about what it actually means to start, build, scale, and sell a software startup. My name is Pete Daly-Dixon, the co-host of the show.
And I'm Stuart Prestedge. Hi.
Stuart is the one with all the experience. And hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. What time of day is it? What day is it? I don't know. How are you doing, Stuart?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, very good. Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, really, really well. The sun is shining. The sky is blue, and I mean, I'm sure the season will change back to winter again before the end of the week because we are in England after all. I'd like to do something at the beginning of these calls that we learned from Matt Selby, who's recently joined our team. What's one really positive thing that's happened to you since the last time we met, either personally or professionally?
Gosh. New client started with us on Monday, who's an amazing guy doing something pretty cool. Can't tell you what, but very pleased to welcome him. And it's nice. All of the founders I work with are great people as well. So it just makes my job a real pleasure.
Yeah,
helping them and enjoying the time with them. So,
and that is fairly rarefied air, really. I mean, you don't work with many clients one-to-one in a month, so that always, when I hear about you starting to work with someone, it always tells me the fact that they're working with you tells me a tremendous amount about who they are and what they're building. And for me, I think the thing I'm going to grab out of the sky is that I got my act together enough to get my wife a Mother's Day present sorted before the day. So anyone who knows me will know that's quite a feat. But yeah, I had a good weekend with that.
Fantastic.
Okay, so on this show, I thought it would be fun for us, if not for you, Stuart, to go back through the archives of lessons, I guess, that you've learned in your nearly 40 years of starting and building, scaling, selling software startups. Lessons that have been painful to learn, have been expensive to learn, just the kind of lessons that you can really only learn by having your boots on the ground, being in the trenches of doing the work. Because the listener watcher of this episode may well be a first-time founder, not knowing what they don't know. So I think one of the gifts that we can give someone like that is a bit of foresight, if you like, of if you what am I trying to say is you've been down the path several times that the listener and watcher of this episode is on and wants to travel down. So let's see if we can bring the future into the present and help them out a little bit that way. So when I sent you a message on Telegram earlier in the week about what I wanted this episode to be about, what one lesson, painful, expensive, gut-wrenching, however the biggest, however you want to define it, which one came to mind for you straight away?
Well, you know me, I'm not going to stick with one. But I won't go on all day.
Never one thing.
Yeah, the anti-Tony Robbins, never one thing. So a painful lesson that one of my clients had learnt before they came to me. And they came to me and said, I wish I'd met you a year ago. And I said, if I got £1 for every time I heard that, I'd be a rich person. But he had spent, I think it was £600,000 on an MVP without doing any validation and without really locking down requirements. Ended up with something that just wasn't what he expected, no product market fit, and it was practically wasted money. So a big lesson there is to do your validation and lock down your requirements. So that's a little one that sprung to my mind.
What about you personally?
Yeah, me personally. So I'll tell you a story. My business partner and I, we, created quite a few products that were successful and helped people, made some money, fantastic. But we had one product that we thought this will be perfect for Google to purchase. So we attempted to reach out to Google, couldn't reach out to them, gave up. And then 9 months later, we were actually in a meeting, just Simon and myself and this guy who is the head of Google Apps, the actual person in charge of everything. And
Simon, your business partner.
Yeah. I forget what we were meeting for, but at the end of the meeting, we said, "Oh, by the way, we've got this product that we think will be a perfect fit for you." And he said, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. This would be a perfect fit for us. Should have come to us six months ago, because we purchased a product that does almost exactly the same thing for $100 million. So that is a lesson in perseverance. I think we should have persevered and kept going and trying to get through to the right people. And I think
that's gone.
Well, I was going to say, I think that lesson translates to getting investment, because you will get lots and lots of ignores and no's and rejections until you find investors that are right fit for you. And of course, you can do it intelligently, so you reduce that number, but you'll probably count on the fingers of one hand the times when founders that I know about have reached out to investors and they've said, "Yeah, that's great, first time," So yeah.
But like rocking horse poo, it just doesn't happen, doesn't exist.
I've never heard that one, but yeah.
Have you not? No. Stick around me, Stuart. You'll learn a phrase or two.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a couple more. Yeah. They're the ones that spring to mind.
That's really interesting, that story. And obviously, when it comes to getting investment, the founder that's listening, watching this episode, I'm sure will keep going and persevering until they get investment. And
Not always.
Obviously, in that journey, there will be feedback and there'll be iterations and evolutions and pivots and changes. But at what point does it make sense to give up? At what point would it have been like for you and Simon? You literally were just continuing to bang your head against a brick wall, and you could have moved on. How does the founder know when to stop, when to change, when to pivot?
That's a good question. I think that's
what I'm paid for, Stuart.
Don't think, that's a judgment call. I don't think that you can be prescriptive about that. It's the rate at which you have feedback. For example, it's like popcorn. It's like it never ends, but it gets more and more gaps in between the pops, kind of thing. And it's not black and white. You wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm giving up now," or "I'm going to now switch to stop trying to get investment and start crowdfunding or try to get a grant." You as you think it's getting less and less likely, but some people give up too early. There's no question some people give up too early. Oh, I reached out to 20 investors and no one responded. That's nowhere near enough. You'd be lucky to have one investor respond at 20. But
okay, well that's an interesting statistic or number. What is a kind of realistic
5%? 5% response rate. 5% literal response rate, even if that response is no, sorry.
Okay, so even just to get a response, let alone an invitation for a meeting.
Yeah, you wouldn't start there necessarily. You'd start perhaps with some questions, but or even a no with feedback is valuable.
Yeah, and what is that journey like? Let's pretend that the founder watching this episode has got all of the materials that they need to make their pitch.
Mhm.
What is that process of finding an investor to contact and contacting them and getting a response? What are all the kind of milestones into like getting that notification from your bank and your banking app that $750,000 just
How
landed?
many how many hours have
In,
you
in
got?
you know, high level, high level.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, okay, high level. So I think the first thing I certainly do is to work out who are the right investors to approach. And this is a big problem generally. People just do a spray gun blanket approach to all investors they ever find. The first thing is to think about, okay, who are the right investors to approach? And then there are lots and lots of sources of investors. So you have to sort of identify which ones fit those criteria and then do some research. You must do some research on each investor. To check that you match their thesis. And part of the right
What
investor
does
is
that
this.
what does that mean? What does that mean? Match their thesis.
Well, that it means that you're at the right stage, the right check size, the right industry, the right location. Um, they're the big ones. But
So
also,
all investors have a thesis. That's their
yeah, it
investment.
may or may not be written down,
Right.
but you know, it's conceivable that, especially, for example, angel investors, that they don't have they have like a vague thesis, as in, oh, that something interests them and something different interests them. It's possible because obviously they can
Mm.
do what they like, but
Yes.
in my experience, typically, even angel investors like, oh, I'm interested in fintech, or I'm interested in healthcare, or I'm interested in productivity, whatever. So sometimes that thesis, especially for VCs, is articulated clearly, and sometimes less so.
Right.
But you've got to sort of do that research, and if possible, um, filter in, filter out. But the research also helps you to personalize messages if you're going to reach out to actual people rather than, for example, filling out a form on an angel group website.
Right.
But even so, then there's the identification and the filtering process and the research process, and then it's the reach out process. And different types of investor have a different reach out process. Angel groups are a great one because pre-seed is kind of often in that sweet spot of stage and check size, and that they want you to fill out the form on the website. Now, there's a lot of detail there, but I won't go into the detail now. Angels, it's more about building relationship with them. So it's ideally, if you have time, don't just the first time you reach out to an angel investor shouldn't be to ask for money. It should be to start to build a relationship and to ask if they're interested in learning more about what you're doing, earlier on.
Interesting.
They want updates, um, and perhaps read posts and like posts and comment on posts. Ask sensible questions which are not contrived. I don't like contrived questions, but
Mm.
sensible questions, and that has the potential of helping others as well, which I'm always an advocate for.
Do you mean like on LinkedIn and
Yeah,
social
LinkedIn.
media where the investor might be present?
Yeah, that's right. But you're showing yourself to be someone who is contributing and sensible and getting on the investor's radar, kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, so if
So,
you have
so we've got a
time.
list of investors that we've researched. We know that they're like at least in the right ballpark of being suitable. And I'm sending cold emails. Is that a
Well,
recognized thing? Is it acceptable?
it doesn't it doesn't really work that well. I don't think. Things are working less and less and less. Um, so it's best to go to networking events if you can. And as I said,
Right.
to build a relationship on LinkedIn, cold emails, they used to work, but I haven't got the numbers, but they don't feel like they work anymore so much, at least. Um,
Okay.
and for VCs, they state their thesis online. They say reach out to us, but they're hard to reach. It seems that they're hard. They typically don't have a form online saying do this. So you've kind of got to either get an introduction or meet at a networking event or a pitch event, something like that, or a conference. Um, and those can be online, so you don't have to spend a fortune attending these.
Mm.
Um, there's one at the end of this month that I'll be attending. I forget the name of it, BC Conf or something. Things like that. Do things like that. So they're harder to reach. So yeah, so then you'll get then you may or may not get responses. Now it's okay to follow up as long as you don't pester, and you certainly, if someone says, okay, look, I'm not interested, sorry, certainly, other than the response, in my opinion, saying, great, thank you very much, you shouldn't, continue. You should accept that no.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are kind of two, broadly speaking, reasons for a no. No, we don't think you're investable, kind of thing. We don't think you're ready, etc., etc. And no, you're not right for us, or you're not right for us at this time, or for me at this time. And if it's the second one, I feel it's appropriate to A, ask for feedback, and B, ask for a potential referral. Because if
Mm.
it's the first no, an investor wouldn't refer you because their reputation can be tarnished. They're referring
Sure.
a founder that they think is not investable at this time, at least. The second one, I think it's appropriate. Now, don't pester again, don't pester, but you can at least, I think it's appropriate to say thank you very much. Any feedback's welcome. Do it in a sort of non-pushy way. That's my
Yeah.
style, at least. And if you know of any other investors that you think might be interested, then I'd appreciate a referral.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That not one that I would necessarily have thought of. Just going back to the first no, is it suitable to ask for feedback in that case, or do you kind of just take
Yeah,
the no and move on?
yeah, it is. It is. Whether you get feedback is another matter, because you kind of lost a bit of credibility if you haven't taken the time and done the work to get it right, to be
Mm,
investable.
mm.
I said broad categories. Obviously, there are different reasons why you might not be investable. Some are kind of like the investor just doesn't want to have anything to do with you. It's a spectrum.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not binary, but so they would not. But some are like, you're not quite ready yet. You haven't quite got this right, kind of thing. So yeah, they might be more inclined. But these are
But
people
until
who. So
yeah, and I mean, the interesting thing for me though is that until you get in front of an investor, how do you know as a founder whether
well,
you are ready or not?
you get the advice of someone who's been through it before.
Right. Okay.
um, you
I was
know,
I was hoping you would, I was hoping you'd say that.
yeah, that is a good way. I honestly believe that, and there
Mm,
are people, myself included, who can help. You can use tools like LLMs, GPTs, ChatGPT, etc. You can watch video courses and things like that, but there are lots and lots of little pitfalls,
yeah.
and the devil's always in the detail, and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know that you've made some silly mistake by watching a video that gives you sort of a general,
Yeah.
because it wouldn't sort of say, "Oh, check this, check this, check this," or put its eyes on what you've done.
It's that context piece that I've heard you talk about before. Is that yes, there's plenty of information out there, and
Mm,
LLMs have seen all of the great pitch decks of all the great,
mm,
billion-dollar unicorns, but that information, absent of specific context about a founder's specific startup,
yeah.
is a bit like what I'm not great at coming up with analogies on the fly. Um, it's
I
it's
don't
a it's a bit like having having a great recipe in the book, but not having all the ingredients in the cupboard that you
Well, it's
can
the
put it all
difference
together.
between theory and practical advice,
Yeah,
isn't it? You can know
yeah,
all the theory in the world, but having practical advice is what you really need. Um, it's like having a lecture, big lecture, a lecturer just lecturing at you, and you not being able to ask questions, and they'll answer your specific sort of unclarities, as it were. Because some of this stuff's quite complex, and I can fully understand that people don't just get it straight away, get it first time. They need clarification or elaboration or simplification, even. You and I were talking about things quite complex earlier on today, and and I don't see. I just see the more information there is online, the more confused people can get because it's conflicting. And speaking of conflicting, by the way, the feedback you get from investors, I don't know about almost always, but let's say often, is conflicting. So you've got to, and if you're inexperienced, how do you know what you should and shouldn't? I have seen some founders take everything that's ever said from an investor and include it in the pitch deck and change the pitch deck and end up with this Frankenstein's monster of a pitch deck. Whereas you've got to.
So, so in a sense, what you're saying is that there has to be this certain core to what you're building, to what you're about, which can only be built by yourself and with trusted advisors like you and others. Don't use the people that you are attempting to raise money from. Don't let them impact what it is that you're presenting.
Yeah, and not. I don't want to put down feedback, because sometimes founders get excellent feedback, which is like, "Oh, this is brilliant. This is so helpful. Something that's been missed, or not clear." And of course, when you're close to a pitch deck or an opportunity, it's not just the pitch deck. Then it's you're kind of tainted by that, because you know what it's like when you're too close to something. You can't see if something's unclear or wrong or inconsistent, whatever.
Yeah.
Inconsistency. That's I spot those things, but then I'm a robot, so.
So just going back to this journey that a first-time founder can expect, they've taken your advice and they've started to build relationships with investors that they see online, and they're getting into a dialogue, and then what? Do they get a request for a formal request for a pitch, or what's that progression like in the journey?
So a pitch might not be the next step, but it doesn't matter, because it's a journey. It's not a case of, here's my pitch deck, please can I have some money. It's a journey and it's a two-sided journey where both the founder and the investor or investors have to be comfortable with everything. And that's a mistake I see often as well. Founders accepting the first money that gets offered to them and not really taking into account whether they're the right investor for them. Excuse me. For whatever reason, it's not just about the money necessarily. Some investors will bring expertise and their network, and of course you've got to work with an investor, so you've got to get on. You've got to have a relationship. It's like a partner. It's a partnership. So
and that speaks to a mindset shift as well. Is like, rather than thinking of you're like Oliver, please sir, can I have some more?
It's
actually thinking of yourself as an equal partner. You're talking to a peer. They just happen to be more experienced in the investment side of it. But,
that's right. It's a relationship, and both or all parties bring value to the relationship, to the whole. Absolutely. But so it's a journey. So you're not necessarily looking for, I'll invest in you. You're looking for that next step. And that next step might just be questions that are asked of you. It might be, let's have a chat. That chat might be informal or a formal presentation. There might be follow-up questions. But
so at what point? So sorry to jump across. I kind of feel like I'm the proxy for the first-time founder that's watching this. So at what stage do I send my pitch deck that I've slaved over? At what point do I send that to someone?
Well, if it's If it's an angel group and you're doing a form online, you would send it straight away in the form. If it's a VC, you would potentially do the same thing. And you might have different decks for different purposes. So, for example, if you met a VC or an investor at a conference and you'd actually talked about your solution and they had a clear picture of what is it, what's the opportunity, and some other things like, okay, you've got any traction, tell me about the team, then you might send a more detailed deck to them. But typically you send a kind of what I call the intro deck, which is just the overview. It's not a lot of detail in there. It's skimmable. It's a skimmable deck that can be looked at. I mean, the sad fact, it's getting worse and worse. The sad fact is that if an investor looks at your deck, it's probably for less than 2 minutes. And I was on the phone with an investor yesterday. What day is it? It was Monday or yesterday. I can't remember. Anyway, I was on the phone to an investor this week, and he said it's now down to 3 seconds per slide, which is less than a minute. But I'm sure, I know the fact that some slides are more important than others, but it's got to be skimmable. So that's
less truly is more.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the intro deck, which is why I like to have the titles of just the titles tell the whole story. So if you just read the titles, you'd get the picture.
Good tip.
And be able to sort of, okay, I get it. Am I interested? Do I not want to know more? Do I want to take the next step on this journey? Whereas if your slides were the problem, the solution, the market size, the product, the team, then you skim that and you get nothing. So I've forgotten your original question now.
At what stage do I send this pitch deck that I've been?
Right, yeah. So straight away, if it's an angel group or a VC, if it's an individual angel, my personal preference is to reach out first and just with an email or a message on LinkedIn or something, and just say, hey, I'm doing this. Is this something that you might be interested in? Would you like my pitch deck, or would you like to know more? So, because sending a deck out, although I know it's a journey, and it's like, okay, here's my opportunity, here's what I'm doing, and are you interested? Are you interested to take the next step, which might be ask questions or have a chat, whatever? It can be perceived as, here's my deck, can I have money? And
yes,
even if that's not the case, you don't want to come across as just, oh, I found you on the internet, can you give me money, please? You're not. It's a relationship you're building.
Yeah.
So I feel like you shouldn't send it to an angel straight away. You should ask them, would you like to see my deck?
Yeah.
But don't waffle. Don't have, everybody's busy. And serial investors are particularly busy. Not all angels are serial investors. Some of them dip the toes in the water and have the odd investment here and there, and it's a sideline. There's a spectrum. But everybody's busy generally, so don't waffle like I am now. But just get to the point, but in a friendly, professional way that isn't, oh, you don't know me, but I want something from you.
I've really learned something on this episode. I'm going to start looking forward to them more and more. And what I learned in particular was the sense that it is far more of a relational journey than it is like series of discrete events: send email, get invitation to make your pitch.
Yeah, that's right. But at the same time, it's a sales process, and you have to track it properly. So it's this mixture of, this is a process where you are like reaching out to different types of investors, and you're following up, and you've got different yeses and nos and possibles, and you've got to track that properly in a CRM or a spreadsheet or something. But at the same time, you're building relationships. So it is a sales process where these two things come together.
So we just think about wrapping up now and circle back to the incredibly expensive mistake, this £100 million lesson that you learned.
No, it was only $100 million. It wasn't 100 million.
Oh, okay. Well, what's a few £1 million between friends? $100 million. that lesson that's kind of led on to this conversation. And for the listener watcher, if it's not self-evident, with these conversations, Stuart and I have a starting point, but we can never guarantee where they're going to go. I thought it was going to be like a real exploration of lots of lessons, but maybe it's just one lesson and that you've had, and then kind of exploring it in more detail. So just kind of wrapping up, going back to that $100 million mistake, what changed in you and Simon going forward once you realized what you had missed out on from not persevering? And how early on in your relationship, your business relationship, was this?
Oh, this was halfway through. I mean,
Okay.
we were partners for almost 30 years, and we are still very, very close friends. One of my closest friends, and we knew each other maybe 6 months before we became partners. So
Right.
it was kind of very lucky.
I mean, just sorry to cut across before you answer my question. I mean, and even that, there's something to be learned, that you weren't rookies, you weren't newbies. You were 15 years into working together and building successful products, and you got this lesson then. So I mean, that's to kind of highlight the value of what we've just been talking about.
Yeah. I think if I recall, it was the first time we tried to sell a product. Before then, we built products and got users and had users paying us. I think that was the first time we tried to sell a product. But what changed? What did we learn? Well, interestingly, it was not just, well, it was perseverance, definitely, and we persevered. For our biggest exit, we persevered. So we had an actual exit before. So after this mistake, but before my second exit, we had a smaller exit, and there was a definite lesson. If we've got a few minutes, there's a definite lesson to be learned from that, which was prepare your data room of documents as soon as possible and keep it up to date as you go along, because the due diligence on that was a nightmare.
Yeah.
We'll
definitely circle back to that in another episode.
Yeah, but so the second exit that I did, so that was I think the purchaser approached us, which is always good. But the second exit that we did, we persevered, but B, we tried to get a bidding war going. We tried to find more than one, actually. So we persevered enough to actually find more than one. I think there were 3 people who were wanting to acquire our technology. So we almost managed to get a sort of a bidding war going, but that never quite happened. But if you can get into that position, then no, we're talking about exits here, obviously not investment, but maybe the same can be applied to investments. But so perseverance.
So you really internalized. What I'm hearing is that you really internalized that lesson and learned it, and were far more. You persevered far more. In things that came your way 100%. Afterwards.
And we had the fortune of having that really, really difficult first exit, because the data room for our second exit was, I was very proud of it. We had all the documentation, and of course that impressed the purchaser, and all these little things go towards increasing their confidence in the sale actually going through, and of course negotiating a higher price. So
Well, each episode unlocks potential for another 5 episodes. So which is great. I mean, already I can think about things to talk about next week and beyond. So that was the week that was on Tech Startup Unfiltered. Great to have you with us for this brief amount of time this week. Stay tuned, same time, same place next week with another episode. And see you then. Cheers, Stuart.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.